Hello there. ADHD for me is laying down on my couch using my phone calmly and then remembering that I have a test tomorrow at noon, but instead of studying, I keep laying down on my couch using my phone but anxious. It's not like I don't care. I'm stressed out of my mind because I want to do good in this class. And yet, despite how much I want to succeed, and how anxious I feel, I just can't bring myself to do it right away. Getting myself to sit down and focus is like pulling teeth for me. Here. I've tried to explain this so many times. Before I knew I had ADHD, I was so ashamed to admit how I spent my time. I'd say, I didn't have enough time to finish the project, and they'd go, "What? You had this entire week, what did you do all that time?" Literally nothing. I sat at my desk fully intending to work and I ended up scrolling on Reddit for 5 hours. Is that ADHD or depression? I don't know which one I am, but nothing is done and I have some very important things that I just keep putting off. I'm not even in the mood for anything, I literally just sit around doing nothing all day right now. Both. Brew at some point it gets hard to tell them apart, but depression I tend to feel in my body, like my entire body just feels heavier and lethargic. I don't know, I've got too many issues. I have so many letters. ADHD, BPD, OCD, EDNOS, fibromyalgia. Never know if it's anxiety or depression or whatever else. I just live my life balancing out one drug with another, but I've cut down so much. I would be in trouble if I lived in the USA. Yet, our healthcare is dog shit. Thanks for the reminder. I think you can have one causing the other. ADHD and the associated stress can bring on depression. Likewise, being depressed can make ADHD symptoms worse. Which one comes on first for you? You can probably also have both of them without one being the direct cause of the other. Yet, my anxiety was actually stemmed from my ADHD. My first doctor wouldn't put me on strong stimulants because she feared it might make my anxiety worse. I just started stimulants and a lot of my anxiety has died down. I'm still on Prozac though. Depression is 100% there for me because of genetics. But yet, I would have never guessed that using a stimulant med would pretty much save my life. Late reply, but this is where I'm at. I have constant anxiety and depression, I do very little and my life is stagnant except for the 2078 tabs I have open, but I have assessments for medication next week. I'm anxious about trying different medications and having them exasperate my anxiety. Stories like yours give me hope I'll find something that works for me. Hey, how did the assessments go? Hope you're doing a bit better today, at least. Oh bless you. It was 2.5 hours long and I'm awaiting an appointment to start discussing medication etc. Still waiting, but I'm somewhat hopeful. I hope you're doing good too. Hey lol, me not responding is typical because of how I feel right now. I knew that a bunch of you reached out with insights and just said I'll get to it. I can't tell which is coming and where, but I know it's severely impacting my life right now. I have been meaning to go to school and just put that off indefinitely. My work life is totally screwed up right now and I honestly don't want to do anything about anything. I find myself saying it is what it is and just letting things spin out of control, and I have an over-the-phone psychiatrist appointment next week, but I don't even know what to say. Socially I'm in a shell right now and have just stopped communicating with friends. I spend time with my family and brothers, but at home I'm just a couch potato, and when I'm not there, I'm taking a nap because I exhausted from literally doing nothing. I'm exhausted too, don't be too hard on yourself. How are you today? Hey, it's been alright. Talked to a psychiatrist and he prescribed me citalopram 10 mg, but I'm very confused after reading about it. Don't know what to do, but leaning towards giving it a try. Depression is more common amongst people with ADHD. I was treated for my ADHD first, and once the medication stabilized, I was put on citalopram, generic Celexa, as well for depression. The combination of both meds has helped me greatly and feels free to reply with any questions. Besides this, how do you know when the ADHD is stabilized? I have always had a serious lack of focus when I'm not interested in something, but these days it's compounded by my lack of responsibility due to being in a rut. I've pretty much ended my career and I work for myself. That's supposed to scare me, make me sad and alarm me, but something is wrong and I just can't be bothered to care. I'm watching myself ruin my life and I'm happy just paying attention to things that mean nothing to me. I used to joke when I got my motorcycle to my friends that this is my solution. You never see a motorcycle outside a therapist's office, and now I'm not even riding my motorcycle lol. I'm a college dropout who wanted to be a lawyer and worked hard to make a career for myself, and I've just thrown it all away with not a care in the world. I have forgotten what my favorite hobbies and interests were, and I no longer have a favorite anything. No favorite number, car, color, food, place, etc. Both treat. Treat both. If you don't treat both, one or the other will get worse and cause the other to manifest again. It might be depression as well. I was having that. Just a lack of motivation for university work or other stuff, like I have to watch around 20 hours of lectures since past weeks because I couldn't seem to start them before. My doctor put me on antidepressant, Zoloft, and I have more energy and happiness in my life to do stuff. But still have to find a med for my AD though. I just needed to be more stable. The point, you can have an emotional problem as well. Just observe and feel yourself. For me it was usually, this is excellent work. Why couldn't you put this amount of effort into your last assignment? Last assignment would be one I somehow managed to start a week early and actually finished before deadline, a heroic feat of willpower. Sure, the final product was always a bit sloppy whenever I accomplished such amazing levels of time management due to losing track of where I'd left off each work session, but surely that was okay. I did such a good job not procrastinating. And current excellent assignment would of course have been done over the course of a single panicked night, finishing minutes before deadline, feeling like an absolute trash fire of a human being the entire time, near drowning in shame. Inevitability, these projects would be goddamn masterpieces by virtue of adrenaline kicking my brain into genius mode and not losing any threads to memory holes or boredom. I tried so fucking hard to be good at working ahead. I just wanted to be a good kid and make the adults proud. But every time I overcame myself to accomplish the monumental task of working ahead, I got told off for lazy, sloppy work. Every fucking time. So I got forced into this bullshit high-stakes gamble of trying to figure out exactly when to start working to get that stress boost, but without starting so late it would be impossible to finish. Enduring constant lectures about how bad I was for putting my work off, unable to explain that I fucking had to do things last minute because it was the only way to live up to their stupid goddamn expectations. Ugh. Wow, I have never even thought of it this way and never had somebody so accurately describe my experience. I always feel terrible when I get a good grade on papers because I don't think I've written a single one ahead of time. I usually barely have time to proofread. I feel so energized by waking up at 6 a.m. and cranking it out, and letting the words flow at a rapid pace naturally. But when I try to study for a test or write in advance, it's like my brain turns to sludge and everything moves so slowly. I get up and go to the bathroom every 5 minutes, I start texting everyone I know, I get distracted by little things until hours and hours have gone by. And my memory is so poor, so part of me doesn't know how much I tried to do when I started, even if what I'm actually saying right now is totally true. I genuinely don't remember most of what I was doing or thinking when I was supposed to be studying/prepping/planning. When people ask me how I study, I repeat advice I've heard about making flashcards and how to outline essays. I don't want to tell them that I get high off sleep deprivation, stimulants, and deadline pressure, then have galaxy brain moments where I can word vomit pure gold spontaneously. I just recently finished my undergrad, at age 30, and ended up with a 3.7 GPA in physics, literally all of it fueled by sleep deprivation and razor-thin deadline surfing. My classmates would ask me for advice all the time cause my grades were so good, and I'd just straight tell 'em like, yeah, I do all the shit you ain't supposed to, works great for me. Lesson here is learn how your brain functions and lean into it instead of trying to pretend to be something you ain't. Being an older student, I always tried to act as a role model for the kids who might have been struggling with their own learning disabilities, show them it's okay to approach things differently if you find the standard advice just isn't working for you. If reading this just reminded me of the all-nighter I pulled in college to finish a 25-page technical proposal. Man, the anxiety. I feel this in my soul. Like, what is this bizarre, crystal clarity and singleness of purpose I can experience under duress but not access normally? Why is it locked? I feel like my IQ can change by like 50 points depending on the situation and my brain state. Sleep deprived or sick. Feel like I'm rockin' a smooth 80. Last minute project where panic has shifted my engine up by a few gears I didn't know I had? Fucking genius, hand me over that Mensa test while you're at it. It's maddening. I feel like parts of myself are locked, and I can feel them there, just out of reach most of the time. Like a dragster running on standard gas or something. I forgot what I was going to add to this, but I remember that it was in agreement, so thumbs up sign. This is exactly how school was for me. I didn't get diagnosed until my 30s. This is me. How did you get in my head? Did you try your best? Yes, no. Blue, that was a weekly, if not daily, self-talk for me also. Next time, you will do things better. Then next time comes around, and the same failure happened. And I couldn't understand why. I wanted to succeed. I didn't mean to wait until the last minute every single time. I didn't mean to give sloppy work because I couldn't focus enough to make something of quality. Was I broken? Do I actually not care? Am I really just lazy, a terrible person, and coming up with far-reaching excuses for my lateness/forgetfulness/messiness? I'm so glad I was able to pull through school and college. To a certain extent, the horror of failure pushed me to succeed. I was, more or less, a good academic. But I knew I could have done better and I didn't. Well, fast forward 2 years, and I get tested, I talk to a therapist, and I get diagnosed with ADHD. Now I'm fighting back the annoyance that I didn't figure this out sooner. What if I was diagnosed and medicated while in school? What if I could have been the academic my teachers and myself believed I could be, but something in myself constantly held me back? I try not to think about the what-ifs, but that lingering regret still sucks. I have lingering tears reading this cause this is literally my life, only difference is that I'm in university and it's what to do. Yet I wish I'd known earlier, especially for university. Never again. Until my next assignment rolls around and I end up putting it off again. 100 double underlined. Me every day. How do I explain this to my parents? I'm stuck in a cycle of staying up too late. I can never make it to school anymore, since I'm way too tired. I'm afraid to tell my dad that I've missed a lot of days already. Please send help. Something I do when I'm in a bad cycle, take a really long walk by myself. I put my phone on airplane mode and just walk. No planning or goals or expectations, just go. Sometimes for hours. I try to be present and observant of my surroundings but let my mind wander as it pleases. My steady footsteps become a metronome for the erratic tempo of my mind. During it, I feel that anxious energy slowly subside, and with it, the impulsive need to seek escape through stimulation that keeps me up all night. It also makes my sleep quality a lot better, which makes it easier to adjust my sleep schedule if necessary. I think my brain is like a dog that needs to be walked or else it resorts to destructive behavior. Walking doesn't solve the mess that I leave behind, but it makes me feel grounded enough to start tackling it when I return. I know that exercise is sort of a no-brainer response, but I honestly think walking is the best because it requires the least effort to start, and you can do it for a really long time, which means lots of fresh air, potentially sun, and meditative space. Thanks for the great advice. It makes me want to get up and take a walk right now. Walking has been a prescription for a variety of ills throughout history. It comes up constantly when you read biographies and advice from notable people in the past. I feel this. I got stuck in a similar cycle recently. I'd stay up till 5 AM and sleep till 3 PM, it was really bad. I'm lucky that I don't have that many live classes scheduled this semester. Does your teacher know you have ADHD? It's a recognized disability and most if not all schools have programs in place to help you. It might help you to have more time to work on schoolwork, or extend project deadlines, or things like that. I would ask. 2. Are you on medication or is that a possibility you can look into? When I really fuck up my sleep schedule and it gets to the point where I'm not at all tired, my doctor prescribed me lorazepam to quiet my brain some so sleep comes a little easier. There's lots of options for sleep aids, but this is something you should discuss with a doctor as they all have some negative side effects and can be addictive. 3. I don't know your dad, obviously, but for me, when I opened up to my mom that I was having a hard time focusing on my classes, it actually made things better for me. Granted, I'm not a minor, but I am still dependent on her for a lot of financial things, hence why I'm back in school trying to get a good job, and she had every right to be mad at me for failing my classes. But I just tried to be as honest as I could be, and tried to explain how my ADHD was affecting me in a way she could understand. How to ADHD videos are great for this. I also asked if she would help me by holding me more accountable to the schedule I set out for myself. I wasn't asking her to keep after me all the time or nag me, just to check in and make sure I'm following my own goals. I know that this kind of thing isn't possible with all parents, but if you think your dad might understand, I would be open with him. It could be that he wants to help you but doesn't know how. Apologies if you weren't seriously asking for help, either way I'm rooting for you. We can do it, we can get good sleep. Thank you for the tips. My school knows I have ADHD, and I already get more time for projects, and that's amazing. But I already miss many hours of class, because I get overloaded due to ASD too. It's overwhelming to see what I already have to catch up on. I'm on ADHD meds that make sleeping harder, too. I think sleep meds might help me in this situation. I just have to email my psychiatrist, as I've meant to do for the past 15 weeks. I've asked my dad to help me before, but he simply refuses to do things as long as he doesn't understand why I need him to do it, no matter how much I explain, make him read or make him watch things about ADHD. Many people around me tell me they want to help, but nobody realistically has the time and dedication needed to silence the ADHD-born child within me. Man, that's a bummer. You're really going through a lot. It's good that you're trying with your dad. I would say don't give up there. It took my mom a long time to even believe I had ADHD. Maybe try making your goal this week is to just write the email to the psychiatrist. I know stuff like writing emails or calling people is hard for me too, and always takes me a long time. Sometimes what helps me is to write the email but not send it right away, and then I give myself some extra time so that I can edit it and make sure I've actually written what I was trying to say. Best of luck. With the meds keeping you up, what time in the morning are you taking them? I had a similar issue with long-acting medication keeping me up, and a solution a coach that told me was to have 2 alarms for the morning where the first is you taking the medication, then an hour later it's your actual wake-up time. Well, I'm not on stimulants since they only make me more hyper. I use some kind of antidepressant that takes a few weeks getting used to. I've gone through that time period 2 weeks ago, and now I can't control my sleep schedule anymore. However, waking up earlier for my meds isn't really going to help me, cause once I wake up I can't fall asleep, making me more tired at a slower rate, but still exhausting. I've tried. I hope it's not the meds that keep me up all night, because they do help with doing my daily chores. One small tip I have regarding meds and sleeping. This is just something that works for me, it may not work for you, but I'd like to share just in case. I set an alarm for 30 to 40 minutes before I need to get up, ideally more than 12 hours before you need to go to sleep that night. For me it's about 15 to 16 hours before ideal bedtime. Keep your meds and water next to your bed and take it, then go back to sleep. I wake up due to my meds, but you may want to set a second alarm just in case. This way your meds can wear off before bedtime for sure. I'm going to chime in here about the sleeping meds. My life and my sleep was completely changed since I was prescribed melatonin. I take a rather low dose, 2 mg/night, but it has turned around my sleep. My psychiatrist explained that some ADHD brains inhibit the natural production of melatonin. Ever since taking it, my sleep is deeper and more fulfilling. Apparently I've spent my life having very light sleep without even knowing it. Looking back at a few years ago, I can understand why I felt absolutely drained if I didn't have at least 10 hours sleep. Now I can get the same result with 7 to 8 hours. I've struggled with sleep all my life and I've found that routine is the biggest help. Can you set reminders on your phone and also your do not disturb to remind you to go to bed on time? I also have a Wi-Fi light bulb which goes into a sunset mode around that time, and while I can turn those things off, they do remind me that it's bedtime. Also, in terms of meds, promethazine is what I take as it's non-addictive and simply a strong antihistamine. I try to only rely on meds to help to reset my circadian rhythm. Valerian can help with this too, but warn that you may have some really intense and strange dreams with this. I know that routine can be so hard, but honestly as I got older and started sticking to one, my mental health improved so much. I don't have a rigid schedule, but I work 9 ISH to 5 ISH, so I try to go to bed at 10 or 11 each night, knowing it takes me a few hours to fall asleep. I also tend to track my sleep so I know if I am getting off track. Hope things get better for you soon. I finally talked to my college's Office of Academic Accessibility about my ADHD. The only accommodation I would want is project deadline extensions, but the lady said that they typically don't do deadline extensions of any kind for ADHD. I then asked what would they do, and she said extended testing time. Extended testing time? That's the only thing you can do for students with ADHD? The whole time she also made it pretty clear she didn't think that AD/ADHD is a real thing, saying that I just had a problem with time management. In my head I thought, of course I have a problem with time management, it's called ADHD. She also said that I would have to get some sort of psychological testing to say that it is a severe disability to my everyday life before I could apply for accommodations through the school. I just came back to school at this new college and I'm already thinking I'm going to drop out for the second time. Ugh, that sucks. I know every school handles it differently, and it's awful that something that could help us is blocked at an individual level by people who have no business passing judgment on something they know nothing about. I'm currently on my third go-around of college, with my aims much lower than the first 2 times. I'm a glutton for punishment apparently. What I do is stay up for 2-4 HRS or more. Sleep at like 10 PM and try and get back on cycle. It sucks cause I always end up reverting back to staying up till 7 AM and sleeping till 2 PM. Yet, this can help in the short term, but in the long term I read that you can't actually change your sleep patterns this way. I know for sure whenever I do this I end up crashing at weird times during the day. But it can be useful if you can hack it for long enough, and then once you're going to bed/waking up at the time you want, make sure to take that opportunity to practice better sleep hygiene habits, basically eliminate as many roadblocks to a good night's sleep as you can. I think because we have ADHD we have more roadblocks than most, which makes it hard. Habits take a much longer time to stick, it feels like. It could be anxiety keeping you up. If it is, something that helps me are breathing exercises. The first day I tried this, its effectiveness took me by surprise. I fell asleep with the light on, which hasn't happened in a decade. The fundamentals of the breathing exercise is that your heart rate goes up when you breath in, and goes down when you breath out, so by breathing in for 3 seconds and breathing out for 5 seconds you can lower your heart rate. You can do 2 SECS in, 3 SECS out if that's uncomfortable. Supposed to do it 4x a day for 5 minutes, but I've only been doing it once at night. Talk to your teachers. Find out when their office hours are and go. Talk about any hardships you're having, and ask for advice on prioritizing assignments or whatever. They may not be sympathetic but there's a chance they will be. And if you can remove the anxiety and shame and stigma you are experiencing you may find that it is easier to start going to class and begin whatever projects you need to. Maybe try melatonin pills? You might wake up groggy the next day. Or you could try staying up an entire day and knocking out around 10 PM. This always happens to me multiple times a month. I recently fixed my sleeping schedule the other day, but I'm in college so I chose later classes. And my 1:08 AM class is mostly asynchronous, thank God, face with cold sweat. Similar situation with me, I'm behind on like 9 assignments for college and I really want to ask my mom for help but she's going to be pissed that I lied and said I was caught up on everything because I didn't want her to yell at me. Sad face. Yes 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 yes. I referred to myself as lazy to a therapist when I was trying to explain this to her pre-diagnosis. I talked about how I would just procrastinate all the time even though I didn't want to, and how I hated how lazy I was, and I still remember her response, "Why do you call that being lazy?" I had no response. It shifted my view of myself so much, to be honest. I still feel embarrassed about it but at least I don't call myself lazy anymore. My therapist said the same thing. I call myself lazy and stupid a lot still, and have a lot of internalized shame and guilt for stuff that turned out to be just ADHD symptoms. She still has to call me out a lot when I talk about myself that way but I am getting better at noticing when I do. Even worse for me is, I don't do the things I would like to do, like playing games or whatever, because I sit there and know that if I start doing something fun, I can't stop. I also don't do the task I need to finish before allowing myself to have fun. So I just sit there and do nothing, waiting to find the motivation to do what I have to. Yup, I banned myself from playing all phone games, because once I start I can't stop. There are some I have even begged my husband to delete from his phone and we don't talk about those games. Exactly this. I put blocks on all phone games/social media sites and it still is hard to stop, because of that feeling that I need to be working, so I can't do something I want to do, so I end up doing something I don't actually want to do, but that requires no brain power, like mobile games. Yeah, but I still do that even on meds. I've been on 3 different meds and I still can't bring myself to study. At this point I'm convinced it's something else plus the ADHD. Honestly, now that I'm out of school, I kinda wish I was back in school. Sure, it was painful, but I knew how to study/cram for tests, even though I could only study the night, all night, before. And thank goodness for my friends that would set up study room times, but work, that I don't have figured out. But anyway, what always helped me was studying with a visual goal, something to let me know I had finished. My go-to strategy was to get all my notes and lecture slides and highlight them. One color for main topic, another for definitions, another color for things that are very important, or lists, etc. After going through all the notes I would make flashcards. Different colors for definitions or groups, etc. If there was ever any list to remember I would make a mnemonic. You can even use a word generator online. Once you do all this you're supposed to go through the cards and put aside the ones you know by heart and focus on very important ones. I never really got to this part because I ran out of time. But just reviewing the lectures and making the cards was enough to get a good grade. Doing all this was also helpful with my confidence, because I had tangible proof that I studied. Using different color markers and pens probably have me a dopamine burst too. I have a feeling I need to look into being tested for ADHD. It's kinda weird how much things like this on this sub apply to me to AT. And now that you know you have ADHD, how is it managed, and do you still sit at your desk hoping you'll start work soon? Yeah, to be honest. The thing that changed after getting diagnosed was that I'm getting better at recognizing my patterns. And that when I fail at something, I can challenge that negative self-talk, which helps. Instead of I'm sitting here procrastinating because I'm a no-good lazy fuck who will never amount to anything, I'm slowly acquiring the tool set, through meds and therapy, to be able to go, okay, I've been sitting here scrolling Reddit for an hour. What's going on in my head right now? What triggered this behavior? Of course, my actual thoughts are not nearly as coherent. One big thing I work on with my therapist is that life/healing isn't linear, and being diagnosed with ADHD, getting medicated for it, and starting to work on my problems, doesn't mean that everything will be solved instantly. She mentioned that it's an ADHD tendency to want to fix everything all at once, and then get overwhelmed, and give up. It's true for me. So I guess, ultimately, my biggest goal right now is to build up my resiliency to failure. The less I fear failing, due to literal decades of failing over and over again due to undiagnosed ADHD, the easier it is to start working. My therapist calls this the dark playground. You are doing an activity you should find enjoyable or at least not painful, but the looming task in the background casts a shadow over it. Looks like your therapist's a fan of Wait But Why. This is great. Although, we'll reorganize our to-do list, check sock prices on Amazon, and split up our iPhoto albums into smaller, more specific albums. I have quite literally done these 3 specific things. I feel called out. LOL. Also this. Holy shit, this is me every morning before 10 AM. I cannot get my ass in gear before then, it seems. The dark playground is a place every procrastinator knows well. It's a place where leisure activities happen at times when leisure activities are not supposed to be happening. The fun you have in the dark playground isn't actually fun because it's completely unearned and the air is filled with guilt, anxiety, self-hatred, and dread. Wow, that hits pretty deep before 10 AM. Hi, nice to meet you because I can't get started on anything earlier than that to save my life. The amount of things I could get done that would give me momentum for the rest of the day on ACC of feeling proud of my productivity levels. And my brain's just like, yeah, we don't care. My boss, are you going to come in early with us tomorrow? Me, I mean I want to do that more than anything. I really do. But will I be here early tomorrow morning? No, absolutely. I won't. Who is just writing essays about me? Thank you. Good read and might help. Formidable explained. Although this was before I was diagnosed, I once had a psych put it to me this way when talking about procrastination and anxiety. I spend so much time lying around, scrolling on my phone, seemingly doing nothing. Yet I'm constantly exhausted, fatigued, and burnt out. Aside from the lethargy that comes with inattentive ADHD, this is because although it appears I'm constantly resting, my mind is never actually at rest. 99% of the time I'm incredibly anxious and stressed about university work and other obligations that are building up or overdue, yet paralyzed by executive dysfunction and not actually able to get started on anything. Because I'm always intending to do the tasks I need to do, I don't allow myself to actually rest. Like, almost ever. I can't count how many times I've said no or had to ditch plans with friends because I have an assignment that is late, but then I still don't do the assignment. I just end up feeling like a shitty friend for being a flake, and a shitty person for being lazy and disorganized. This has honestly exacerbated during COVID. My city is currently ostensibly in our 6th month of severe lockdown, and one of the only reasons we're allowed to leave the house is exercise. Aside from being important for physical health, the chance to get out of the house for a walk is obviously incredibly important for mental health, especially due to these severe restrictions. Yet I hardly ever go for walks or exercise because I have an assignment overdue and I keep telling myself I don't have time. I've barely watched any TV shows or read any books this year. I can't concentrate because I can't stop thinking about the ever-increasing list of urgent tasks I need to attend to. I haven't allowed myself almost any time for recreation this year, yet I've also barely completed anything academically or work-related. And obviously, since I'm so burnt out from not actually resting, my capacity to function in those areas is further diminished. It's such a fucked up, self-fulfilling and self-perpetuating cycle. EDA, on top of feeling mentally drained because of these things, physically I feel so shitty because of the lack of exercise, sleep issues due to meds/anxiety, and poor eating habits. I moved out for the first time a few months ago and this is an area I struggle with a lot. I hardly ever feel the random bursts of energy/focus I used to get from time to time, that I could tap into to get shit done. Oh my god, this describes me to a T. Sorry for replying 2 months after your comment, but did the psych teach you anything that helps with this? I've lived 30 years and I'm only just beginning to realize that I might have ADHD all along. I relate to practically every post on this sub. It is scary. What's up? I'm also browsing 2 months later. I'm not diagnosed and I probably don't have severe ADHD, but I've gone through the dark playground, the lack of restfulness, the self-flagellation, and gotten through it, if only recently. Yesterday I was finding that it's been helpful to think of things in terms of what I want to do rather than what I should do. When I sense myself making a decision to procrastinate, in quotes because if it's actually me deciding or my brain just not acting as expected, and feel a twinge of that anxiety, I stop and visualize what the actual steps of the thing I'm avoiding would be like, and how I would feel afterwards. Visualize myself cutting vegetables, visualize putting them in a pan on the stove, imagine a dinner that smells great, imagine a full stomach and feeling proud of myself. And suddenly cooking is something I want to do rather than something I should do. Other things that have helped are external pressures, helpful, but not reliable, sometimes require you to be in a bad position already before people start pressuring you, and can cause you to have distorted views about right and wrong and lead to perfectionism, and internal pressures. The desire not to feel self-hatred for the 1000th time inspired me to do work many times, but it can be emotionally draining in the long run to constantly remind yourself that you potentially hate yourself. And that last parenthetical point is what I think I've been learning as I research ADHD. Using external and internal pressures are tactics I learned as crutches, but they rely on a strong emotional basis in order to function. I get around my lack of ability in my executive functions by tapping into a vast emotional world of self-hatred, fear, and shame. Some pressures are mild and not that harmful at all, but others can lead to daily reliance on strong, negative emotions but probably affects your overall well-being eventually. I really hope the want vs should thing sticks around and become a feature of my life, before and after my hopeful diagnosis. That's a great way to put it. That is indeed dark and exactly how it feels. But how to not do it? I also want to know. Recently I found some benefit in getting away from social media/TV shows/distractions to just listening to music, because that sounds tolerable compared to doing work. Then when I'm less distracted it's easier to think clearly and choose what I want to do. I'm still in the honeymoon period though, if this will keep working after it's no longer new. Also helpful, mindfulness. I try to ask myself how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, and what I'm thinking. Usually there's a discrepancy, i.e. I feel guilty but I'm browsing Reddit. If doing that is making me feel bad, maybe I should stop. The problem is remembering to do the mindfulness. That's a reference from Inside the Mind of a Procrastinator. Look it up on YouTube, it's quite funny. See also, The Wall of Awful. Literally today. Playing game on phone and remember that I am supposed to be at work with an automation script ready for presentation in 30 minutes. Keep playing game on phone. 15 minutes to presentation. Still playing game on phone wondering what I am going to do. 5 minutes until presentation. Get the idea to convert an old script that has a small possibility of working with the new API since they are pretty much the same with just a few find/replaces. It should make it at least work enough to make it look like I had done something. 2 minutes to presentation. Do that idea. 1 minute to presentation. Get message from boss that they are going to be 15 minutes late. Back to playing game on phone. Presentation time. The script throws an error that the URI was not found. I never changed it from the old one. Boss notices and says looks like you wrote it for the old API, no big deal, just a few find and replaces will fix that, it's pretty much the same as the new one. Let's shoot for next week. Video conference over. Go back to playing game on phone. Edit, wrote this and am now editing it even though I need to submit a billable time report in 10 minutes that I haven't started. So much feels. I do this shit all the time. Like, why stop if it works out for the most part in the end? Because otherwise we live our lives in the dark playground, but it's okay because there are friends there as well. I wish I would get so burned by this one day that it really helped turn my brain around. But I don't think I could get burned enough. I mean, I've been homeless before and the sudden drive and competence ended the second I had a place to live again. Getting burned, as you put it, only helps for as long as it's burning. The way I see it is that I need a life that's as hot as possible while still being cozy. I think I had that for a while living in cooperative housing and going to school. Living alone and working at a job where no one cares about my performance, not to mention COVID, makes it too easy for me to drift into who cares it will all be fine except not really land. The only thing keeping me from the epic procrastination at work you describe above is the threat of consequences. I'm a public employee and our union contract has all of our work rules and consequences spelled out to a ridiculously specific degree, but it's enough to trigger a conditioned, rules must be followed, response in me. It doesn't matter that there really aren't going to be serious consequences for procrastination. I'm certain that conditioning to be a good girl is what got me through K-12 with good grades despite wanting to fight everyone on the inside. Also, being a public employee who actually interacts with the public, if I'm slacking off, I open myself up to a complainer talking about who pays my salary, and then I'll have to fight someone on the outside. So sorry for your struggles, sad face. I do constantly tell my therapist so I am so fortunate to simply be able to, it be like this. And I love the feeling when I feel like I legitimately finish a project, or even a simple task that really helped someone or was really appreciated. So without that acknowledgement, I'm just left with feeling whatever. I hate that I need such a pat on the back for every little thing. But I kinda do to keep me motivated. I hate feeling like I let people down, and I know I do. I know I could be better. But if no one acknowledges when I do well, then fuck it. I'll watch TV on the couch. Like, why stop if it works out for the most part in the end? I wished I'd never learned how incredibly lazy I can be and still get what I need done. In elementary school, early high school, I got shit done easy on time because I was anxious and was convinced I would die if something was late or I got a bad grade. Late high school I found some friends who showed me that you can do things last minute and still get good grades. College I found other friends learned you can do things even more last minute and pass. If I had never learned that I could be lazy I think I'd have my shit in order. I'd probably be super anxious for no reason, but I'd also probably have better grades. You should definitely read that link about the dark playground a few posts above. Edit. https://www.reddit.com/r/adhd_for_me_laying_ing_me_car_using_my/g9hltt9 UTM_medium=android_app and UTM_source=share and context=3. Me sitting in front of my work laptop right now. WFH has not been good for me. Me neither. Although it would be better if it were not a long-term engagement and I wasn't also an acting grade school distance learning coordinator for my kid. Yes, fellow COVID parent. And WFH struggler above. I've been teleworking since March, and I think my productivity has been slaughtered because of it. On top of that, my routine of taking my medication on my way to work, and again at lunchtime, doesn't exist. So I go unmedicated/under-medicated most days. It's killing me. Holy shit. I feel like I'm a ghost screaming at toddler who won't listen to me. It's the worst. Happy Cake Day. Damn it, I could have made a shitty Cake Day post. LOL. Me asking myself where my own adult is. This is a great description. I hate that I understand exactly what you mean. I don't know if this will work for you, but what helped me when I had major assignments I needed to focus on was to eliminate everything that normally distracts me. I would delete all games and social media from my phone. I would block websites to any social media site or put a 1-minute time limit on them. I would still get distracted, but every time I was thwarted by all the blocks I set in place it forced me to at least try to be productive. Also, your school should offer accommodations for ADHD. I'm not familiar with the paperwork, but I do know the option is there. If you meet the requirements you could be granted more time for assignments and tests. You will have to ask the school to get details. What exactly did you use for blocking software? For my iPhone I went to settings and then screen time. You can customize what apps you can use and even websites you can visit. On my computer, I have Windows 10, I go to Internet Properties, select Security, then add the sites to my restricted sites. If you have a Mac, there's an app called Self-Control where you can blacklist websites for up to 24 hours. There's a great app I use for my Android phone called Help Me Focus. I highly recommend it. If I have nothing to do, I will literally stare at the wall and do absolutely nothing instead of work. I second this. When I have a midterm week coming up, I have to delete all of my social media and games or I just won't be able to study. I also use a timer productivity app called Flora that locks my phone while I'm studying. Me today with my fucking midterm. I'm so glad I found this community. It makes me feel like I'm not crazy. Update. I got a 70% because torts is for the devil and I cannot handle any more reasonable persons. Oh shit, you just reminded me I'm supposed to take the LSAT in 2 weeks. I should probably try and study or something. OMG, it makes me so happy to see other pre-laws in here. Sometimes the idea of going into this field with ADHD terrifies me and I wonder if anyone else has done it. Glad to see y'all exist. I'm scared all the time. I'm going to get into the courtroom and start like judge. Let me tell you why my client is not guilty and end up telling him about why Aldous is my favorite place to shop. We're not alone though and we totally got this. Sometimes I'll have these existential crisis moments where I wonder how the fuck I'm ever going to have an adult job, but fuck it, I've made it this far. What's a little farther? I'm still an undergrad and I wanted the next cycle, but I'm a catch it the next time around. Good luck though. 3L here. You're doing great. Torts can be difficult, but you got this. Not me checking to see if I wrote this post and forgot about it. We are living the exact same life. I was once told it could be called adrenaline deficiency disorder because we put off tasks and build tension and stress until our brain receives the rush of adrenaline needed to focus to achieve the task. Like a stimulant med would help focus for ADHD, so does building up the stress and pressure until you act. Trying to act before the pressure pushes you to focus is useless and often is that source of shame and anger and anxiety because we know we are capable but just unable to act until our brain is ready, stimulated enough. So I should start taking skydiving classes? Me, watching TikTok. Me, remembers pressing responsibilities. Me, watching TikTok anxiously. I find that this is the absolute hardest aspect to explain to people that don't have ADHD. If I were lazy, I'd actually be able to at least enjoy myself while doing this shit. Anything with the slightest amount of responsibility associated with it feels like this to me. I had an exam this week. Did I want to study for it? Yes. Did I study for it? No. Turned out it was actually last week because I really hate checking my school schedule. You're not alone, friend. But by God, I wish there was an easy answer to all this shit. Or at least an easy way to explain to those who don't understand. Like, how do I get off my phone? Literally just Googled this. Let me know if you find anything. It's all stuff we already know. Timers, rewards. I literally know what I should do. I just can't do it. Personally, what I do sometimes is extreme. Sometimes when I feel like I am a smartphone zombie, I'll leave my phone at home if I'm working. Usually and often only when I do this, I miss an important notification. I'll put my SIM into a dumb phone. This impedes me because I can't see links that are shared with me for class. And FOMO, which can be better after a while, I guess. Usually I'm on my phone the whole day like it's insane. It'd cow to stop and not be extreme. For me, my phone addiction stems from some apps. I binge Netflix. I binge YouTube. I binge Reddit. So I have removed these from my phone. I do reinstall sometimes during the day, so they're not uninstalled forever. The extra step is big enough to let me rethink my impulse to open my phone and binge. Just try it. Exactly the same for me. I care, but absolutely cannot get myself to do it, and then I'm just anxious about it but still don't do it. It just comes across as pure laziness, and I always figured I was just the laziest POS on earth. I did that too in my undergrad. I created separate spaces for myself in my apartment. If I'm at my desk, I physically turn the phone off, not just turn off the ringer or notifications. Then when I'm done and go back to the couch, phone can go back on. I had the same rule for myself studying at the library, phone literally turned off. With my ADHD, I transition around so much that I get distracted waiting for the phone to turn back on. If I know that will happen, then it's like a flag for me to direct what little focus I have back to what needs to be done. Yeah, at school I went to the library without any electronics, just pencil, paper, books, notebooks. The ability to focus was kind of glorious. Every time I was at a computer, particularly with internet access, it was utterly direly different. That was years ago. Hard to do electronics free nowadays, but in some cases can still be possible. I've been surprised at just how much less tempted I am to look at my phone if I toss it in my bedroom before I sit down at my desk. What's even worse is when everything is piled up at once, so once you do finish something you can't be proud of yourself. I have 4 assignments due tonight and I've successfully done 3, but that last one has me still feeling like shit. I can't wait to graduate university. I was on my phone for 2.5h, in the bathtub, instead of studying and writing an essay, and preparing a meeting I'll have tomorrow. The rest of the day I watched dog videos, like the responsible adult I am. Update on me and my meds. Nothing seems to work and it's making me depressed. Again. After I kind of beat my depression. And because the first 2 times I took it, it worked, I had hopes. Now, after 2 weeks of taking it and increasing my dose twice, it only works a tiny bit in the morning, and then as soon as I eat, the effect goes away slowly. Then the second dose I don't even feel. No increased blood pressure like everybody is saying, no concentration on what I need to do, nothing, just me being the lazy whatever I am. I was on my phone for hours now instead of cleaning and studying. I managed to sort some of my papers and wash some clothes, that I then tossed on a pile in my living room, like I would have done anyway even without meds. In the morning I was purely excited to do something when I woke up. Then took it and an hour later felt better about myself and actually doing it. That's when I sorted the papers. Now I sat in the bathtub again for 2 hours straight. And yes, the water gets cold. LOL. I feel lost. I talked like a waterfall again the past few days, just like before. I didn't pay attention to what others were saying just like before, and the worst was realizing how useless I am without a functioning medication. I can't anymore. It's just exhausting. For me and for the people around me. I became the emotional mess I was before. Has this ever happened to anybody else? Reading this from the bathtub, at 12:30 am. I've been in the bath for 2.5 hours, so far. Hope you'll have more luck getting out soon. I had to get out because my phone turned off. I forgot to charge it. Thankfully I got myself one with a long-lasting battery, though grinning face with smiling eyes 2,5h on 6%. It's been at 5% for like 20 minutes. I'm sitting here thinking, why won't you die, phone, so I have to get out and can go to bed. Thanks, this conversation has helped me muster the strength to just get out and go to bed, lol. It's so cozy in here though, and there's still so much pointless Reddit to scroll through, face with tears of joy. Yay. I'm proud of you. Good night, sleep well. This conversation now motivated me to get out of bed and turn my Zoom lecture on. LOL. Holy shit mood. I just responded to a Reddit post with a 2-page long diatribe about work-life conflict rather than working on my capstone, about work-life conflict, help us executive functions, you are our only hope. I feel this so much. Sometimes it's like at that point the anxiety acts as a jail cell to trap you in your mind so you can just get up and get it done, despite your fear of the consequences. It sucks royally. I've been feeling this more and more recently. Even with my meds it's getting harder to focus and get schoolwork done, even though I want, and need, to do good in my classes. And when I should be doing school, I'm procrastinating, then I feel anxious and guilty about procrastinating because I need to be doing school. Pre-COVID I would go to my library, either my campus's or a local one, and that helped me immensely. My brain knew I was there to work, and even though I had Wi-Fi and YouTube, my brain kept focus and I would breeze through my work. One semester I didn't own the textbook. I ain't paying over $100 for a textbook I'm going to use for 12 weeks, so I just used the one the library had on hold for students to use, and I would finish my work for the week less than 2 HRS. If I was at home I wouldn't be able to do that. I miss going to libraries. Loudly crying face. I call this my procrastination paralysis. Not enjoying the procrastination due to extreme anxiety about the fact that I'm procrastinating, but I can't stop. So all of this is me. But I'm 42 and I've learned some tricks. First, when you feel that anxiety first hit you that you need to do something, it's really best to just drop everything and go do it. You won't always be right, but it'll be good practice for future you. Lastly, if you can put screen time reminders on your phone and stick to it, bro, it's life changing. I just remember that my limits are set by me, not anyone else, and therefore I should respect them. Do what I do and just scroll more frantically. Eyes darting manically. Thank you for your testimony. I'm not yet diagnosed, but reading the stories here is making me cry. I've long thought I was lazy and useless because I have had that same internal struggle for a long time, I'm in my late 20s now, but I look forward to getting diagnosed. Executive dysfunction is the worst. Friction. You need to make it hard to get to your phone. Buy a timer safe and lock your phone away from yourself. I feel the stress, anxiety, and shame too. But somewhere in the back of my mind, a little voice whispers, I know that my brain will produce its best material at the last possible second, when everything seems to click into place and the fog clears. Clarity arrives in a race against the clock. So unhealthy but so hard to break. Such a gigantic mood. I'm 2 weeks behind on the lectures for my classes and it's stressing me out so much, but being stressed just makes it even harder to focus and I end up running to things I'm supposed to enjoy to try to find some sort of comfort. I'm managing to scrape through on the assignments, but everything's just stacking up and looming so I struggle to do anything more than the absolute bare minimum. Same. Here. I had a mental breakdown the past 2 weeks leading me to drop 2 of my 5 classes. Yet I still can't bring myself to do the work I've been stressing about that is now a week late. Halfway through my junior year of college I've now decided that school is not for me, even though I'm getting great grades. It has made my life full of anxiety and stress, making my mental health, social life, and overall well-being decline tremendously. I'm going to finish my 3 classes for the semester and then do trade school or something. I can work with my hands for hours and hours on something tangible, but sitting down at a computer for a couple hours to write a paper is torture. I hate the fact that I've spent thousands of dollars on classes, but if that results in me feeling like I live in hell then it is not worth it for me. Edit. For those younger than me I highly suggest starting your college career at a community college. You can spend 2 years there as a full-time student and get an associate's degree like I did. Then you can transfer those credits to a 4-year school if you want to continue your education. Community college is far cheaper per credit than 4-year schools too. I'm glad I did that because even though I'm dropping out mid-junior year I still possess a college degree. Sitting down at a computer for a couple hours to write a paper is torture. Is writing hard for you or just getting the writing done? Are you a good writer but can't finish assignments? I can work with my hands for hours and hours on something tangible, but sitting down at a computer for a couple hours to write a paper is torture. One thing to try is writing in a more physical way. Try writing at a big table away from a computer. Writing pieces on note cards as they come to you and then rearranging the cards in physical space is one way. It's more of getting the writing done. If I don't have some sort of pressure, like time, I would be too distracted to accomplish much, I'm thinking because it doesn't provide me with much stimulation. And that method does sound interesting, I will have to give it a try. Thanks. The idea, for me, comes from Robert Pirsig's book Lila, where he talks about a card system he uses. If you Google it, you can find a lot of other info on these kinds of systems. I tried to explain my ad, I say my because honestly it's different for everyone, to a colleague today and feel like I barely scraped the surface. Like no, it doesn't mean I can't focus or do things well, it's that I normally don't because my brain won't let me no matter how much I want to do it or have it done. It could be something as simple as taking out the trash, but if my brain won't let me it just won't happen. I'm very behind in all 3 of my college classes right now. Do I want to be behind? No. Nobody wants to be failing a single class, let alone 3 at once. But my ad means it takes me way longer than it should to get things done once I even start. So I do this because of ADHD? I literally got diagnosed yesterday and my whole world has been flipped upside down, or more like right side up, and I just didn't know it was upside down. There's so many things I thought were just anxiety that I'm learning is actually untreated ADHD and it's so wild. Yep. 5 exams in 1 week, we were given 1 month plus a Thanksgiving vacation to prep yet I spent 1 hour prepping for each of my exams. In total. I had to laugh when I read this, not at you, OP, but the fact I have done this so many times. Remembering stuff only means normal me plus high anxiety and going through my head why aren't you moving? Why is this not happen? Oh kitty. My family will never understand why this is ADHD and cannot control it. Even lost a friend recently because she couldn't understand why I'm still like this. She's known me forever, but chose to believe I should be able to get up and do something and couldn't get it in her head that I just can't do that. It really hurts when people can't get the idea of ADHD in their head. Like they get it but don't fully understand the idea of it. I try to get them to understand, but something just doesn't take and drives me nuts. I'm about to roll over and try to sleep for the night, but I've got the technical name for what you're experiencing and some books that might help with it. I'll drop back in tomorrow when I'm not half asleep. Here for when you wake up. The problem here is motivation. People with ADHD have highly decreased ability to motivate themselves, and it's specially shown in long-term goals, and by long-term, here we are talking about simply something more than a few days. Dr. Russell talks a lot about it and he explains some tricks. It's really worth looking into it. Try to motivate yourself with short-term goals. Retweet bro. I had a stint where I was heavily focused on my academics, which got me into a good college. But after my second year, I lost that hyper-focus. I still want to do well, still try to sit and focus, but lectures, tests, assignments are so boring. I can lock myself in a dungeon with them and I'll still daydream until like 10 minutes before it's due, or like 2 hours before a test. The irritating thing is it seems to only be in the school format. When I self-learn something I want to be learning, which can even be a school subject, suddenly I'm effortlessly reading concepts and memorizing terms with no distraction. I usually did that until about 10 or 11 at night, then decide I'd better start reading my notes. LOL, that's what I'm literally doing now, work open in front of me and thinking about continuing my show while on my phone scrolling through Reddit. Honest question, how is this ADHD and not just procrastinating? You're right, it does seem similar to procrastination or laziness, but when you have ADHD, you do this type of thing for anything, including things you want to do. I sometimes excitedly rush home from work because I finally have a day off the next day so I can stay up playing video games, but then I end up watching YouTube, checking social media, or sitting in front of the TV watching a show I don't even care about. It's called associate dysfunction, and the way that I understand it, I'm not an expert at all, it's like when you have sleep paralysis, you can try to will your limbs to move but they just don't get the messages. Associate functions are the thoughts in your brain that say, okay, time to do insert activity, or I have work at 5 p.m. so I need to do my shopping, wash my clothes and study for my exam before work. With associate dysfunction, those are more like ideas and not tasks to be done. It's an extremely frustrating part of ADHD, and not only do others see you as a lazy person, but you can't even tell the difference between laziness and associate dysfunction within your own head. Exactly the same here. But I have somewhat of a help to you all, something that has worked very good for me. Instead of pushing yourself to get studying, or finish the assignment, take a different approach. The difficulty for us all is that those tasks are vague, very vague. Finishing the assignment could take 1 hour, it could take 3 hours, it could take 2 full days, or you could come to the conclusion you're already on crash course since there's no way you're going to get it done in time. The sheer anxiety of the latter being the case, and therefore not facing the reality of the task at hand, is ultimately what destroys us. It's scared of being unable to do it anyway, so why bother, but not really taking distance from it properly to be able to relax and forget about it. Here's a trick: right now, as you're pushing the task forward as we speak, I don't want you to start working on the task itself, but I want you to go and check how much work you expect it to be. What exactly is it that you need to learn? What parts of the assignment do you have trouble with? What has already been done? How long will each paragraph take you, if you'd had to make a guess? Take only as long as you need to know what it is that you need to do. Maybe you can find a study planner and know within 3 minutes. That's fine. Do that. Maybe it's a little more work and you need to spend 15 minutes finding the book and scanning through the paragraphs. That's also fine. Make sure you're not spending any longer than 15 minutes on it, that's the absolute maximum. Do it now. Not knowing how big the task at hand is what incapacitates us the most. I don't mind doing a little now, maybe for 5 minutes, but what if it turns out I need to do a shitload of work? I better not start at all in order to prevent me from stressing out, right? All the while, that exact thought is what is stressing you out. Go to your room, grab that book/laptop/whatever, and go check out how much is left to do. Since if you know what needs to be done, it goes from one massive black cloud, into multiple smaller tasks, some of which may not even turn out to be so bad. And maybe you come to the conclusion that you're way too late and you cannot possibly finish it all in time, and that sucks, but that's not a problem. At least you now know you have to drop something in order to allow yourself to still get the rest done. Getting past that initial umph to get you going and started is literally the struggle. This is what I'm doing, lol, I'm supposed to be doing French homework. OMG, I said almost this exact thing to my therapist last week. I feel like there's a parent me and then there's this toddler me, and the parent me is at their wits' end trying to figure out how to be a better parent and get this damn toddler to fucking sit down and behave. Yes. I convince myself I can do 2 weeks of work in a weekend but end up just sobbing while browsing Reddit. But I get all the work done, so I guess I can't complain. It's pretty stressful though. I was diagnosed in 3rd grade, but still didn't understand this particular aspect of ADHD until grad school. I wanted to do my schoolwork, I loved my grad program, but still had days when I couldn't get a darn thing done. I've come to understand that for me, I can get overwhelmed when there are too many options, or when I have so much to do I don't know where to start. I was eventually able to come up with strategies, but it was only after I could name the beast and figure out why I was shutting down. I always thought it was because I was a lazy fart face. I'm just saying I'm so glad this place exists, because just understanding what goes on in other brains helps me so much. This was me earlier this year. My bedroom window panel fell in my room at my house, and shattered, had to put a temporary cardboard filler to stave off the elements. I had the money to get the pain fixed. But I sat on my hands and would play games/watch movies with a ball of anxiety floating over me as I'd mentally yell at myself through mentally grit teeth, "Why are you like this? Do something, you stunted overgrown child." It took a little over 2 months for me to just call someone and get it sent out, and like a few days for it to come back in. This is going to sound really hokey, but, do you like what you're studying? If you find it interesting, or if you can play a mental game with yourself so you trick yourself into finding it interesting, you will soak it up like a sponge. When I read, I hear the voice narrating in my head like a movie. I really get into it. Yes, me. I'm failing about 3 classes. I just missed my midterm. I woke up at 1:44 a.m. knowing that I should probably study, but no. I just went back to sleep. Oh my god, this post hit me so hard it made me ill. Ouch. I am so anxious over work. Why do I still sit on the couch scrolling my phone, anxious about what I can fix right then? Man, the struggle is real. Literally just after I read this I realized I had a test. Still haven't studied yet. You've just described my life. There are some small hacks that sometimes work. Play motivational music to alter your mental state. Commit to studying for 1-5 minutes and worry about keeping going afterwards. Commit to only the very first task, e.g. laying out your study materials. Burn off the excess anxiety with 10 MIBS cardio. Some of these work some of the time for me, see how you go. I feel this in my soul. I'm now 30 but have been diagnosed since elementary. You learn to cope, but it doesn't ever get easier. I took Adderall for the better part of a decade. When I turned 18 I decided I wanted to go without it since I didn't like how it made me feel. What works best for me is blocking off an afternoon to let myself space out and slowly but surely complete any necessary tasks. It may not work for everybody, but it's my best coping mechanism for living life without meds. Good luck. This is the executive function issue. Thing is, the little nightmare rectangle is great to give us small hits of dopamine, which means that they in conjunction with ADHD is terrible. Get a time lock box. Put the phone in the box. Set it for 2 hours. Study. Or not study. Just not use the phone. Laptop is just as distracting cuz internet, my poor GPA. I don't like how y'all are living the same life as me, holy hell. It's kinda nice to know I'm not the only one, but that won't finish my pending assignment now, would it? So, instead of currently working on the new video service integration for our digital meetings platform, I am fucking about on the internet and you lot are distracting me. So, here's what we should do. We should all get a lifetime license for Freedom, https://freedom.to/. It is a good service, it can block your browser, your Android phone's apps, for time periods. Then you hit up my post about my plan work assess, how is that word spelled, method for getting shit done. And then you toss that phone in the lake. You roll off that couch. You know that you can do this if you just get started. Everybody just stop browsing now and for the next 30 minutes. I will turn off Centurion and get to work on the integration. See you back in 30 minutes. I will honestly report what, if anything, I got done. Note distractions. Note your frustrations. Good luck. Back after 30 minutes, managed to distract myself a bit, realized also that Freedom blocked the site I was integrating towards, very nice, so I had to stop it from the blocking thing. More questions arose. I forgot I was only doing this for 30 minutes, but I managed to find some views etc. in the app that were affected by the new video integration. Some progress. I will now go do 10 to 15 minutes of exercise and stretches. Try being an actor, just pretending to be the best version of you, doing the things you wish you would be doing. Just fake it. I feel ya. So turns out, we tend to procrastinate out of fear of doing what we are supposed to do. Like, you think the task is difficult and thus, out of fear, we tend to put it off for later. Of course, it is much more difficult to do a 4-hour task in 1 hour, but we are instant gratification monkey. I get what you mean. I used to think I was just lazy. I still sit there anxious though.